Welcome. Today we're digging into a really fascinating scriptural puzzle. It all comes down to a single verse in the Gospel of Mark. It's one of those tiny details, just a name, really, but it opens up some huge questions about historical accuracy in the Bible. Let's get into it.
So, let's just cut right to the chase, shall we? The big question we're looking at is this. Does a passage in the Gospel of Mark actually record Jesus making a factual error about the Old Testament? It's a pretty bold question, right? Okay, so to really get this, we've got to picture the scene. This is not some friendly chat. You've got Jesus and his disciples, and they're being confronted, and I mean really challenged, by the Pharisees. And what was their big crime? Well, the disciples were picking some grain to eat on the Sabbath, and for the Pharisees, that was a huge no-no. So yeah, you can imagine, it's a pretty tense moment. So how does Jesus respond? He doesn't just give a simple answer. Oh no, he flips it right back on them. He basically says, hey, you guys are supposed to be the experts in the scriptures, right? Have you seriously never read this famous story about King David? He's pulling out a historical example from their own holy book to make his point. It's a brilliant move. All right, so Jesus starts telling this story everyone would have known, about David when he was on the run. But here's the thing. As he's telling it, he throws in this one super specific detail. A name, to be exact. And that one little name, that's where this whole puzzle really gets started. And here it is. This is the crucial bit. Jesus puts a timestamp on the story by naming the high priest. He says it all went down in the time of Abiathar the high priest. Now, you've got to remember that name, Abiathar. Seriously, that name is the key to this whole thing. So, Jesus has basically thrown down the gauntlet. He's pointed everyone, the Pharisees, and now us, back to this specific story in the Old Testament. He's acting like it's common knowledge. So, what do you say we take him up on it? Let's go look. Does the original story actually say what he says it does? Okay, so we're going to jump back in time, all the way to the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 21. This is the original source. This is the story of David getting that holy bread from the priests at a place called Nob. This is the exact passage Jesus was talking about. And right away, we hit the problem. The verse in 1 Samuel says David came to Nob and went to, wait for it, Ahimelech the priest. See that name? It's not Abiathar, it's Ahimelech. All right, let's put these two accounts right next to each other. When you see it like this, the difference is, well, you just can't miss it. Okay, take a look. On one side, you've got the Gospel of Mark. Jesus is quoted saying it happened in the time of Abiathar. But on the other side, you've got the original story from 1 Samuel. And the priest David actually meets is named Ahimelech. They're just not the same name.
So you might be thinking, okay, who are these guys? Maybe it's the same person with two names? Well, nope. The Bible is actually super clear on this. Abimelech was the high priest at Nob, the guy who gave David the bread. And Abiathar? He was Ahimelech's son. Now, Abiathar does become a big deal later on for sure, but at the time of this story, he wasn't the high priest.
So this whole thing, this name mix-up, it leads us to the final and honestly the most important part of all this. What's the takeaway here? What does a contradiction like this really mean?
Well, the source we're looking at lays it out pretty bluntly. They're saying this isn't some minor typo or a tricky translation. They call it a straight-up factual contradiction. Their whole argument is that the Gospel of Mark just gets the priest's name wrong, which means there's an actual error written right into the biblical text.
And all of this builds up to the final, really provocative question that our source leaves us with. By pointing out this discrepancy, it kind of forces you to think about what biblical inspiration really means. They ask, and I'm quoting here, did God forget the writings he inspired? It's a tough question, right? A real scriptural puzzle with no easy answers. It makes you wonder, is this just a simple mistake, or is there something deeper going on here that we're missing?